Welcome to the Sick Podcast. I am Adam Rank, filling in for Tony Marinaro this week. Obviously, though, it's bittersweet because Tony's not here, but I got the best in the business. I've got Ian Rapoport joining me right now to talk about the NFL, and so I think that's a pretty good. Listen, I think it's pretty good. You get Ian. That's a pretty good trade-off, right?
I would say it's a great thing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you'd like all the starters to be here rather than the backups,
Right.
but
Right.
take what you can get.
But as long as you're here, then I don't think it
Yes,
matters.
I
It
would
doesn't
agree.
matter who the special teams guy is, as long as the star quarterback's here and Ian is here. And let's talk about a quarterback, because Justin Fields, his debut against the Cleveland Browns didn't go very well. Him and Andy Dalton both appear to practice on Wednesday. Who is in line to start in Week 4 against the Lions?
Well, I think what they would like to do is have Andy Dalton come in to be the starter. I mean, he's dealing with an injury. It's a 1 to 3 week injury. He's got a bone bruise. It's not. I would not say it's a significant one. So the fact that he's at practice means he's got a shot. And the Bears haven't announced who their quarterback is going to be. I would think you'll probably get an announcement on Friday. And obviously, the hope is with Dalton practicing limited, but still practicing. The hope is that he's the one in as the starting quarterback. Obviously, we'll see tomorrow because I think with Fields, it seemed like it was just a lot for him. And there's no crime for that. I mean, we watched some of the other rookie quarterbacks, and they've all really struggled. I think the real problem is we got spoiled by, Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow last year, us thinking that all that was normal. It's not normal.
Who's going to be calling the plays for the Bears?
Well, usually history shows when you have a head coach who says, I'm not going to discuss play calling. I'm not going to, describe who the play caller is. Generally, that means there's going to be a change. And I know, Bill Lazor ended up calling plays last year. I think Matt Nagy has been always a play caller. And the fact that he's kind of open to giving it up again usually means that it's probably going to happen. So, we'll see. And we'll see if that's something that really makes a difference. I mean, the fact that they didn't get Justin Fields on the edge last week, didn't get him outside the tackles, didn't run him, it was all, frankly, a little concerning for the Bears. And it was a tough result.
And it was concerning for the Bears fans as well. Now, of course, Matt Nagy was a member of the coaching staff of Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid had a little bit of scare at the end of last week's game. How is Andy Reid doing currently?
I think he's okay. I think Andy Reid is okay. And, he was back at practice, back in the building Tuesday, back at practice Wednesday, and, seemed to be okay. I talked to a source close to him and said he was really just dehydrated, needed some rest. I hope he got that. But obviously, leaving the stadium in an ambulance is not what anybody wanted. It was very scary. And obviously extremely thankful that it ended up being okay for him.
Yeah, it was a really scary situation. The Chiefs, of course, lost to the Los Angeles Chargers, and it kind of showed that there's a deficiency on their defense. And the Chiefs, in all their 3 games this season, they've averaged a combined 60 points. Is this defense for Kansas City going to be a huge concern for them?
I don't think so, mainly because they have a pretty good quarterback on the other end who's going to keep them in every game. So, if they have to outscore teams, they can outscore teams. To me, I would say this. I've been a little surprised at the kind of reaction to the Chiefs' performance this week. I thought it would be more like the Chargers have arrived, which to me is kind of what it is. It's kind of like Justin Herbert's really good. Brandon Staley's a really good coach and, has the players buying in. They still got all the talent there, that they've had, but just the Chargers are good. It hasn't been that. It's been more what's wrong with the Chiefs. Should Mahomes, not throw no-look passes, like all that stuff. To me, it's more like they got beat by a really good team that, a team we're going to be hearing a lot about throughout the rest of the season.
But I think a lot of us have also been down this road with the Chargers, where we're like, yeah, we've been here before. We've been let down by them before. Maybe that could be something that has to do with it?
Maybe, but it hasn't quite been like this. I mean, the Chargers letdowns a lot of times have been like starting slow, getting injured, clawing your way back, and having it not be good enough. I don't think this is that. I mean, plus, unless I'm crazy, they look like a team. They look like a team that will be really good.
Absolutely. I agree with you, and we'll find out Monday night when they play host to the LA. I was going to say the LA Raiders, but the Las Vegas Raiders. Some would say they're still the number 1 team in Los Angeles, but it's crazy to me Andy Reid going back to Philadelphia. Normally, any other circumstance would be the biggest story of the week, but of course, we've got Tom Brady going up against his former team.
Yeah, I read about
what
that.
do we expect? Yeah, you know what? People have mentioned it. Why can't Tom Brady and Bill Belichick just be normal human beings and be like, yeah, we had a history together. This is going to be awesome, instead of trying to low-key blow it off like it's no big deal?
Well, I think a couple things. One, for Belichick, like he's never going to do that. Every game it's always sort of the next game. It's always on to the next, all of those things. So to me, this is more like in character. And I know the sort of macro is interesting to us. It's not interesting to him. I think he would like to win a football game, and they lost last week, and the Bucs lost last week.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, nothing they could say at all would match kind of the hype, the discussion, all of that. Nothing. So to me, like they've all done media and they're all fine. And Brady talked today and he's fine, but there's really not much they can say. I think we're all handling the hype. They need to handle just go out and play football game.
That makes sense. And one of the problems with the Buccaneers, too, also in their defense, specifically in the secondary, they signed Richard Sherman. When can we expect to see him on the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think best case scenario he plays this week. We'll see. I wouldn't say that's likely, but you never know. We've seen players come in same week. He's smart. Now they're not a big man-to-man team, so maybe if they were, it would kind of accelerate when he could be in there, because then you would just say you got that guy and he would go cover him. He's more of a zone corner where you have to understand what everyone's doing around you. So maybe that's why it'll take time. So, I would say if not this week, then next week. And, the Bucs do have some deficiencies, but none more, pressing or important than corner. And they got some injuries there. I think this was a really good signing for Tampa Bay. Really good.
Antonio Brown was somebody that they brought in last year, and we saw what it did for them down the stretch. Obviously missed last week. Is he going to be playing this week?
He is going to be playing. He cleared COVID protocol. It's 10 days. So, he missed the maximum. And I think some of us were wondering, is he going to play last week? Like, no, he didn't. He didn't come close. He waited the maximum, out 10 days. Now back at practice. Practice today, practice tomorrow. Should be good to go. And, they lost Scotty Miller to IR potentially for the whole season. So, having a receiver like him is, I know, going to be hugely helpful this week.
Certainly. I know you probably don't make predictions, but what can we expect from this game? Because for whatever reason, I think that this is an opportunity for Mac Jones to come out and kind of assert himself with its secondary that has been struggling.
Yeah, to me, like the thing I'm going to be sort of looking forward to is what's the game plan for defense?
Yeah.
Bill Belichick knows Tom Brady as well as anyone. They've known each other intimately for the last 20 years. Bill in his mind has all right, here's what I would do to stop Tom Brady. This is the first time we actually get to see it. So I know everyone thinks the Bucs are going to come out and win in a walk, and absolutely, maybe the Bucs win by a lot. I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be a defensive struggle. And I think Belichick's going to do a good job of limiting Brady. We'll see who ends up winning, but I really do think it's going to be a really good game.
And selfishly for my fantasy team, how is Gio Bernard doing? Can he play this week? Is he going to be on track to play?
I would not say that. There's always a chance, but even a slight MCL sprain, usually you miss a week. So I would say you probably should keep him on your bench this week.
All right, fair enough. Well, you know what? I appreciate you giving me the tough news that even though I don't want to hear it, I know that because you're a friend and you will go out there and deliver that news. But Ian, I want to thank you so much for joining the Sick Podcast today. We'll tell everybody that you better be watching NFL Game Day Morning on the NFL Network starting at 9 a.m., the very best pregame show in the history of mankind, and you should be watching it.
Accurate. Very accurate.
The hour that I got to dip out to go do my little digital show, I still record it and I go back and watch it because it's just that damn good. So, Ian, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. I hope you watch my hits on super slow-mo. That's how you appreciate them the most.
Of course.
And I'll talk to you next week if you're still there.
We'll see. I'll go check you out on NFL Now, also on the NFL Network all week. You can see Ian Rapoport. And there it is. All right. Thank you so much, Ian. There he goes. Again, one of the best in the business. And we talked a little bit about the fantasy implications of that Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. Now, obviously, Tom Brady has been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks since about the middle of last season. throwing 2 touchdown passes in now 11 consecutive games, including the playoffs. He has been on fire. And I understand what Ian Rapoport is saying. Like, if there is one coach who has thought about for years what he would do to slow down Tom Brady, it is going to be Bill Belichick. So to me, I'm still excited about playing Tom Brady. I think that if you have an option like, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers or somebody very good, even Matthew Stafford, who this week is going up against the Arizona Cardinals, then perhaps you would slide him into the lineup. But I still think that there is going to be an opportunity for Tom Brady to go out there, put some points on the board. Not having Gio Bernard out there does hurt my heart just a little bit, because he has been somebody that I've been looking forward to seeing. Also, in that game, I'll just keep it real simple here. There are 2 guys for the New England Patriots who I really like. Now, Jacoby Myers, to me, is a player that I really liked during the preseason and thought he had an opportunity to break out this year, going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that is very desperate for defensive secondary help, to the point that they went out and signed Richard Sherman. I think Jacoby Myers is on the cusp of breaking out. And really, all he needs is that touchdown. Once Jacoby Myers scores a touchdown, everybody will take notice. But what you should be noticing is that he was targeted 14 times last week. That is going to be huge. Another player that I want you to go and pick up right now is J.J. Taylor, one of the backup running backs for the New England Patriots. James White is dealing with an injury. Last week they went to Brandon Bolden, and that's fine. In the middle of a game, you go with a veteran who knows the offense, knows exactly what he's doing. But now that they've had a week to prepare for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team when you figure they're going to throw the ball a little bit, J.J. Taylor, to me, reminds me a lot of a guy named Rex Burkhead, who played for the New England Patriots a number of years ago. Now, Rex Burkhead still in the league, of course, but both these players are very similar in what they're able to do. And Rex Burkhead was actually one of these running backs that Bill Belichick really loved, because he could run between the tackles. You notice he would get a lot of goal line carries, and he also caught the ball extremely well. That is what J.J. Taylor does. I'm not saying that you go out and start him this week, but please pick him up and have him on your bench. And if you are deficient at the running back position, you can probably go ahead and give him a start. Now, another quarterback that I like this week too, who just never seems to get the recognition. I have 2 guys, actually. Derek Carr will be one of them. Derek Carr has been fantastic. He's thrown for 1,200 yards this season, the most in the opening 3 games of a year for a team that has started 3-0 since Kurt Warner back in the early 2000s. And of course, Kurt Warner was playing at an MVP level. Derek Carr is working himself into an MVP level. And if you are looking for a quarterback, and I know I've looked at this start-sit stuff for this week, and of course you can go to NFL.com/start-sit to go check out my full write-up on all of this. Derek Carr is a player that needs to be rostered and should be an alternative for you. For instance, if you have Ryan Tannehill, who is not a bad player. Ryan Tannehill is a good NFL quarterback, but he is not putting up the fantasy statistics that you would like to see out of him. And now, A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, both of them battling injuries. So it's going to be difficult to really trust him, especially this week, in a game when Ryan Tannehill is going up against the Houston Texans. I'm anticipating a game script of a lot of running, although they're not playing the Texans, are they? Are they? I got it confused. No, Buffalo's playing the Texans. Houston, Tennessee, I'm getting them all baffled. This is what happens when you retire Bum Phillips and put him in the Tennessee Titans Ring of Honor. I can't keep these teams straight, but with the matchup this week for the Tennessee Titans, I do know that it's probably going to be very run heavy. And it's probably going to be Ryan Tannehill going out there, throwing for 197 yards, throwing a pair of touchdowns. So to me, I would rather go with somebody who's going to be in a dynamic shootout, somebody like Derek Carr, somebody like Kirk Cousins, who could be in a game that is going to be high scoring. We'll see. Vegas expects that to be a very high scoring game. We'll have Cash with us here in a moment. Maybe we can ask him about that game. But one other thing, a couple other notes I did want to get off my chest here, just so you guys know. Number one, Jonathan Taylor has been extremely disappointing this season. I know a lot of you want to pull the ripcord and eject out of your seat for that. I would stick with Jonathan Taylor. He still leads the NFL in touches inside the 5-yard line. He's going to be just fine. Allen Robinson has scored at least 12 fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games against the Detroit Lions. With Bill Lazor calling the plays, I think that's actually to the benefit of the Chicago Bears. I think it's been Matt Nagy's stubbornness that has held the Bears back at times. And you know what? Sometimes you're better off just letting your offensive coordinator call the plays. I think Matt Nagy's a great motivator. I don't think that he's ever lost the room or anything like that. If he just lets Bill Lazor go out there and call the plays and they respond with a great performance, then I think that we can calm down on the calls for Matt Nagy's removal. Also, Chuba Hubbard, excuse me. Obviously one of the top waiver wire ads for this week. I say that you play him. I have him right around the running back 21, which means he would be an RB2 for you this week. Obviously, if you're replacing Christian McCaffrey with Hubbard, if you were able to pick him up off the waiver wire, or if you had the handcuff based on what happened last season, which was a very smart thing to do, start him this week against the Dallas Cowboys. And that is your fantasy report. And now, is Cash with us?
It's time for Sick Picks. Brought to you by MyBookie.
What is up, Cash? First of all, I feel remiss. I probably talked over my own animation. I just realized that. Thankfully, I didn't talk over your animation. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, man. 2-1 weekend last week. Feeling pretty good. I'm gonna give out some winners again this show. I think we're 5-1 my last 6, so it's good. And anytime you can take a profit from these sports, that's where you want to be, right?
100%. Well, I do it for entertainment purposes. I do it because honestly, this is a lot of good information for fantasy players too, because anytime that you talk about games where the expected point total is very high, that's a game that you want to take note of. So what are some of the games that you're looking at for this week?
Right away, right off the top, I'm looking at the Cowboys game, guys, and I'm liking the Cowboys, and I hate to say it because the Cowboys are a public team and the public loves the Cowboys. You're going to see 70% of the tickets betting on the Cowboys. You're going to see overs because their offense is so potent and their defense is a little bit lackluster. They've been better this year, but still, the Cowboys make for a public team and they make for an over team. But here's the thing, guys. This Cowboys team has had a stout offense. They've been elite, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. They're only 4.5-point favorites. I think that line's too short. They're missing the Panthers are missing CMC. I think that's a big deal, guys. I think that this might be a blowout spot. The sharp play might be Carolina plus 4.5, but I got to trust myself in my power rankings. I think the Cowboys should be a touchdown favorite. This game could get ugly, guys.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people ignore the fact that they had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the ropes and should have been 3-0. And I know that I came out and said, like, this is a team that's the best team in the NFC East. I think that they should be considered one of the contenders for the NFC, just in general.
I think so too. I'm with you there, and it's going to be a while before the markets catch up. But this Dallas team, watch out for these guys. When the markets do catch up, they're going to be tough to bet because they'll be double-digit favorites every week. Mm-hmm. I don't think the market's caught up, and you guys can take advantage of this team in fantasy too. Like, their offense is so potent. Zeke's running the ball. The Pollard's running the ball well. CeeDee Lamb looks like an elite receiver. Looks like he's been in the league for years, even though it's only his second year. Dak Prescott looks like this guy hasn't missed a beat. This team is scary, and honestly, I'm surprised that I'm even speaking these words right now. If you'd have told me I'd be in this spot 3 weeks ago, I would have laughed at you.
Same. Yeah, it's been quite impressive what they've been able to do so far this early in the season. What are some of the other games that you're looking at?
Here's a bit of a trap game, and I'm not really going to give out a play on this game, but we're looking over at Baltimore and the Denver Broncos, and we're looking at two really misleading scores. Like, you got the Broncos 3-0, right? But they played maybe the 3 of the 5 worst teams. We're looking at they played the Giants, the Jets, and the Jaguars, right? Like, they haven't played anybody yet, guys. They're 0-0 in my book. Sure, they've won. I haven't adjusted them up or down. I just don't see a need to. And then the Ravens. Like, the Ravens almost lost to the Lions if it wasn't for that historical field goal, which was awesome for any fan. Whether you had the Ravens in your pocket or whether you didn't, whatever the case was, that was an awesome play. The Ravens, what happens with them? They lose to the Raiders and then beat the Chiefs and almost lose to the Lions. Like, what can you make out of that? My opinion, guys, stay off of that game. Don't pick a side because you don't know what to expect from either of these teams. The Ravens could come out and win by 30 or they could lose by 30. I would stay away from that game. That's a trap game. One game, though, that I'm definitely going to be on, Green Bay minus 6.5. I think the Steelers are just, like I said a few weeks ago, guys, the Steelers team is regressing and Ben Roethlisberger looks awful. I don't think he's ever looked this bad. Aaron Rodgers looked good against San Francisco, our Super Bowl pick.
Yeah.
I was upset about that one, but what can you do? Give me the Packers -6.5. I think these guys are really starting to find their groove, and I think the Steelers might actually have their first losing season under Mike Tomlin this year.
It feels that way. Is it? But when you talk about trap games, is there any sense that, here comes Green Bay beating a rival like San Francisco in a primetime game? Everybody is writing off the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a lot of pride on that team. Do you think that there's a chance the Steelers could just rise up and maybe make a statement before they have that historic losing season?
Here's the thing, like the stats and stuff and the analytics, like, and if you look at PFF, the Steelers, even their defense, which is supposed to be elite, just hasn't been there this year. And there's nothing except for like a little bag of hope that Mike Tomlin won't have a losing season that makes me stay away from this play. And if that's the only thing that's stopping me, I can't go through with the Steelers. Maybe they cover the number at 6.5. It's definitely possible. The markets usually aren't off that bad. But as far as a win, I don't see a realm of possibility where the Steelers outscore the Packers and stop them. I just don't see it.
Well, if you're a Bears fan, you can see it. But that's just because I'm a hater. And this is why I don't bet, because I'm too emotional. I'm too emotionally invested in other teams losing as much as I am with my own team winning. I don't want to cut you off. I want to make sure you get everything out there. Is there anything else, any other games, or otherwise I'm going to put you on the spot with one?
Last game that I really, really feel strongly about, and Ian already mentioned, guys, the Chargers coming out show. This team is legit. This might be a top 10 team. This could be a top 8 offense. Their defense is getting it together. Give me the Chargers -3 against the phony Raiders. These Raiders are as phony as a $3 bill, guys. These guys are not legit. The Chargers are. They might have one of the best QBs in the league. Give me the Chargers -3. The line was 3.5. It's at 3 now. Bet this when you see the video go up. You want to take the Chargers -3. I think it could be a route. The Chargers are elite, guys, looking like a really solid team, a buy-on team for me, 100%.
I didn't know that Canada didn't have a $3 bill. That's news. I'm learning something every day. This is cool. I appreciate that. I will say this, and I'm going to be like the fly in the ointment again. It's like I can see SoFi Stadium right here. I can look out. I'm literally looking at it. This is going to be a Raiders home game. But I think that if the Chargers win this one, I think that we're going to see a swell. And I think a lot of people who've been apprehensive in Southern California to embrace the Chargers, I think they're going to if the Chargers are able to pull this one off. I'm not recommending anything one way or the other. I'm just telling you, don't be surprised when you turn on the TV Monday night and you'll be like, are they playing in Las Vegas? No. It's in Los Angeles. It's in Inglewood, I should say. I'll be on the sideline, but we'll see. I'm excited. By the way, real quick, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know we're going over time. And I'm only doing this for my fantasy purposes.
Yeah.
I feel like the Browns and the Vikings could be a very high scoring game. What do you? I don't want to make you give out anything for free, but it feels high scoring to me.
I honestly, I'm going to disagree with you. I hate to do it because when we agree,
No, please.
when we have a strong
That's
opinion,
good. No, this is good. This is good. No, I like
we're
this.
undefeated, right? I think it's an under game, right? You have two heavy running teams. Dalvin Cook, I don't think this guy's coming back this week, but whether he is or not, that's a heavy run team, and the Browns are a heavy run. They're a primarily run team also, right? So I feel like there's going to be a lot of clock getting chewed. My initial lean is to the under. I don't have a play on that game. If I had a free play, I would lean to the under and potentially the Vikings too. I think this Vikings team is legit. They had an off game against the Bengals. They probably should have won that game in overtime when Cook fumbles the ball. They missed a field goal. A 30-yard field goal against the Cardinals. This Vikings team is legit, guys. They should be 3-0 right now. A little bit of luck turned the other way. 3-0 looking into the rearview mirror,
I unfortunately have to agree with that, I guess. I know, because I'm gonna lean on you. I've been playing Kirk Cousins in my fantasy leagues. I think I'm gonna go try to stream a quarterback now. I don't know who it's going to be, but now I gotta go to work. Thanks. I appreciate it. No, but thank you so much for joining us here today. And by the way, thanks for everybody who has endured me over the last couple of weeks. Don't worry, Tony should be back next week. He is, Ian, one of the best in the business. Cash, one of the best in the business. And of course, Tony Marinaro, easily one of the very best in the business. I'm just the guy who holds a clipboard here. I want to thank the Sick Podcast for letting me do that. So until next week, when I'll just be here boring you with some fantasy advice, we'll see you then.